All right. Well, y'all have been listening so patiently. We have a real treat in store for you up next. You've been hearing some great ideas for reform and such. We're going to hear some stories now of some guys who actually have gotten some things done, and you get to pick their brains and hear them share some tips about how you can potentially grow your local GRA event. My name is Nathaniel Darnell. I'm the chairman of the Cobb County Republican Assembly, and I have the pleasure and honor of introducing our panel of speakers that you're about to hear from. And then we're going to break for lunch pretty soon. So this is one of the last big treats we're going to hear before we do that. And the different committees are going to be meeting during the lunch hour, by the way. I'm first going to introduce to you Nate Porter. Nate Porter is the Fulton RA president, and he's also the 6th District Republican Party Field Development Officer. He's in charge of helping with that. You all know about what big race we had in the 6th District recently, and he's going to be sharing with you. You're also going to be hearing from my dear friend Michael Davis, who works with me in the Cobb County Republican Assembly. He's the president of the Cobb County Republican Assembly, and he's also the second vice chair of the Cobb County Republican Party on the executive board there. We've had the pleasure of working together. He's a successful business owner and father of 2, and his wife is here with us as well. She's the treasurer of the Cobb RAs. And then we have Brant Frost, who you've already met. Brant and I had the pleasure of working together for Senator Mike Crane several years ago. Brant now serves as the Coweta Republican Party chair, as well as the vice president of the Cobb County Republican Assembly, the Georgia Republican Assembly, and he's heading up the PAC. So you're going to be hearing some things about what these different men have done in their counties. By the way, Georgia has more counties than any other state except one in the entire United States. You know which state actually has more counties than us? Texas, right. So there's a lot of different people from a lot of different counties here. You have some great ideas and some passions for how to potentially build up your local RA. These guys are going to share with you some of their ideas. With that, I turn it over to Brant to start us off.
Hey, cut that out. That's the music they used from Gettysburg when General Lee was getting cheered by his troops. I know General Lee. Who chose that music anyway? Me. Never mind. But seriously, this is a great time. This is really, if you take nothing else away from this meeting, this is the part you need to pay attention to. So to start with, everybody stand up. Come on, everybody stand up. Everybody stick your hands out like this. And stretch. Okay, now you sit down. I need you wide awake. I need you to be awake, wide awake for this portion of our event. And I'm going to turn it over to Nate now and to Michael, and I'll be back in a minute to do my part, but I want to start with Nate. Why don't you talk to him a little bit about marketing a group like the Fulton County Republican Assembly?
All right, can you guys hear me now? Perfect. So I just kind of want to start off with why is it important for us to actually recruit? Why is it important for us to actually bring new people into the GRA? I would think that it's pretty obvious. This is a numbers game, no matter how you look at it, whether you're talking about Alex Johnson running for state party chair, you're talking about somebody that's running for a school board superintendent position, or you're talking about somebody that's running for governor. At the end of the day, it's all a numbers game. And if the GRA labels itself the Republican wing of the Republican Party, our job is to bring as many true Republicans, conservatives into the party as possible. And one of the important ways to be able to do that, one of the things that we have to be open-minded about is actually getting involved in your local county Republican parties and using that as your way to actually get people involved in the GRA. Because anybody that is a hard R voter, anybody that goes to any kind of a Republican event, those are all essentially potential members of our organization, or potential customers if you think of it from a business perspective. So it's really, really important that if you're going to be involved in the GRA, that you're involved in as many different Republican-affiliated organizations as possible. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to be a dues-paying member, but you need to go to their events and you need to meet the people that are actually attending their events. I know from my experience getting involved in the Republican Party, and everybody's got their own experience, one of the first people I met was a guy named John Farros. And at first, I thought John Farros, in all honesty, and he's a great guy sitting right here, I thought he was an establishment guy because he was the current party secretary, and I didn't know a whole lot about him. And we're at this meeting, and there's this huge gathering of all the Liberty people there, and he's kind of like lurking over, and I didn't know who this guy was. But come to find out, as I get to know him and I get to talk to him, we believe in almost the exact same thing. We have a lot of things that are similar in common. I can say the same thing about Dave Rittenhouse. When I first met him, I didn't know who he was from anybody else. My point being is that you go to these different events, you go to these different functions that are Republican-oriented, it's really important that you have an open mind with every single individual that you interact with, especially if you don't know who they are. Now, if I don't know, somebody like John Padgett was there, you kind of know where he stands on things. But, a lot of the individuals that you're going to run into and that you're going to talk to, you don't know anything about them. So it's really important to start a conversation with them, go to these different events, and just get to know the person. You should be doing a lot less selling and a lot more talking, a lot more letting them talk and tell you about themselves. But that's just kind of the initial thing. I know you wanted to talk about different experiences, so.
Yeah, when I first got involved, as we all know, back in 2012, I was a Ron Paul delegate. Didn't know anybody, nobody wanted to know me. But I stayed consistent, I showed up, I voted with my conscience, I never backed down, and I grew friendships over time. And I can honestly say the majority of the establishment does not want us around, but they know now they can't get rid of us. All of us are getting elected to certain positions. I just got recently elected to second vice chair of Cobb County, and as we all know, it was one of the most establishment strongholds in the state of Georgia. But with that in mind, like Nate was saying, if I didn't go to the breakfasts, if I didn't go to the July 4th events, if I didn't go to all these, I have missed a couple events recently, but if we don't show up to these events and volunteer for special elections and volunteer for candidates, then people won't see that we're actively engaged. If people don't see that we're actively engaged, why would they come onto an organization of people who aren't working? Right now, the establishment is extremely frustrated with us because right now we're having a convention and they're just talking about it on Facebook. And we're actually doing something with ourselves. We're organizing, like-minded individuals, and I personally hope this time next year we'll double in our numbers. Recently, to go ahead and move this thing forward, we started a committee. It's brand new, and I would like to pull Ron up here for a couple of minutes to talk about a few things about the new committee that he is forming. And if anybody's interested in being part of that committee, please raise your hand and let him know as soon as you can. Ron?
Yeah, I kind of threw out an idea about a week or so ago, and Brad picked up on it, and he said, man, we got to get into this. So we kind of formed a two-person committee to work on our membership, and we're coming up with some ideas. We'll be sending out mailers. We'll be contacting you, and I've been talking to several people about increasing our membership. I know I've talked to Dr. Paul Brown, and a few others, Paul Pickering, I've talked to him a little bit, various ones, and I'll be continuing to do that to get ideas and to move forward with this. So one thing that I can leave you with real quickly is, everybody here has got a friends list at home, family, and close contacts. If we just take the 300 members that we've got now in this organization and everybody could just get one person in the next 12 months, we would come away with 600 people next year. We'd probably have to have a bigger place. But, one person is easy to come up with in 12 months. Let's go for 3. Let's make it 1,200 people. So, I'm asking everyone to personally take that on as a challenge today and start looking around and see who you can enlist as another GRA member. So, anyway, that's pretty much it.
Just to kind of piggyback on what he was saying, so we're talking about trying to get people involved, and the real question is, okay, so that's easy to talk about, that's easy to say, but how do you actually get people involved? What are some of the actionable steps that you can take to actually get people more involved in the party? One, obviously we want to target Republicans. There's no time wasting time with Democrats. There's no time wasting time with people. Until we have every single hard R Republican voter actively involved in the Republican Party, there's no reason to waste time with anybody that's not a hard R Republican voter. I don't know what it's like in your counties, but in my county, I know we can get the voter list that shows us who all the hard R Republican voters. So you can reach out to them by actually going to their home and talking to them and introducing yourself. And it's a real easy conversation to have. It's, hey, how's it going? My name's Nate. I'm a member of the local Republican Party, and we're just trying to introduce ourselves to the voters and find out what's important to them. What's important to you? And you can be quiet at that point, because they, especially if they're a hard R Republican voter, think about your target market here. If you're a hard R, if you vote in all of the primaries and you want to know more about what's going involved in the party. You want to be involved in the party, but you just might not know how. So by you going to their door, introducing yourself, finding out what's more important to them, and then inviting them to something, anything. Young Republicans. It could be the teen Republicans if they're really young. It could be the women's Republicans. It could be the Tea Party event. Whatever. It doesn't matter what the event is. What matters is that you invite them to something, you show up there, and you kind of hold their hand and walk them through the process. But it's the only way we're going to be able to grow our organization is if we actually reach out and we start to communicate with individuals that aren't currently involved in the party. Now, for myself, I know I have that background experience. I know Mike does as well. So if you want to add to that.
Add to the background.
Well, we got some great news for y'all here. I've just received a message that lunch is about ready, so we're going to wrap this up a little early. Can I get an amen?